not going to lie, this is not an easy subject to talk about. And today I'm going to be coming at it probably with a lot of tears, maybe some dark humor, but a whole lot of honesty. On the 11th of May, 2025, so 2 months ago now, I suffered a full placenta abruption, which saw the loss of our beautiful baby girl, Lila Jane, at just 32 weeks. Where do you even begin? It's difficult. For me, I have found a lot of help through writing, a lot of therapy through writing, and I wanted to share something that I wrote just days out of coming out of the hospital. How I crave to be in the newborn trenches, covered in sick and sleep deprived. Yet this is my reality now. My postpartum body struggles to understand the empty space in my arms. My milk leaks for a baby that isn't here, and my hormones rage. I look at myself in the mirror and I see the scar that took her from me. The extra weight from carrying her for 8 months. The empty space between my skin and soul. And I cry. My brain replays the trauma on loop. Pause, rewind, repeat, blood loss, emergency C-section. I'm sorry, but your baby didn't make it. Amazon packages continue to arrive as we grieve. Nappies and baby clothes you'll never wear or use, and somehow, amidst our pain, the world keeps turning. Sometimes it just happens and we have no answers, says the doctor. Sometimes it just happens, I tell myself. Surrender to the pain, don't fight it. Ride the wave, but don't drown. Surrender, I whisper to myself again. She's with us, in every sunrise, in every smile, in every breath that we take. She's going to show us the way. So like I said, on May 11th, 2025, I suffered a full placenta abruption. Now, I had a pretty healthy pregnancy every time that we had scans, and I was going for private scans. So if you are new here, sorry, hi, my name's Lucy. I have been living in Mexico for the past 9 years. I'm actually from the UK. I moved here 9 years ago, and I live in a very small tropical island where there is not much medical care here, actually pretty much zero. It was a Sunday morning. The symptoms had actually started the Saturday evening. I had some upper lower rib cage pain. And I just thought that I'd eaten something funny because I'd also, sorry, TMI, had been to the toilet quite a few times that day. And I just thought, pregnancy symptom, I've eaten something funny. It's okay. I had no other kind of symptoms. I went to sleep and I woke up okay. I didn't have any stomach pain. I got up to make my smoothie, my morning smoothie that I've been making every morning. And I started to feel kind of dizzy, well, we all know how it feels to feel dizzy. I took myself back to bed. At this point, I was speaking to my mum over Messenger. I told her, look, Mum, I'm not feeling very good. I'm going to go and lie down for a little bit. About half an hour later, I had the urge to kind of go to the toilet for a number 1, not a number 2. As I sat down, I just felt this gush. And I think in that moment, I kind of knew, hey, Lucy, this isn't good. But I didn't want to look. I didn't want to know. And I mean, if you've been pregnant, you can probably relate to this. Every time you go to the toilet and you wipe after, you've done a number 1, you're checking for blood every time. Every time you're just checking. When I looked down, it was a large amount of blood. The first thing I did is I called my partner. I called my partner straight away, who had left about an hour before to go to work. He was very calm, told me not to panic, told me to call our doctor that we've had since day dot. As my partner was with me within 10 minutes. He came, we packed a bag. My doctor was talking me through some medications to buy if we could find on the island, which was near impossible, to maybe help slow down the bleeding, because we had about a 2-hour travel now to a hospital. Left my house around 9:30 a.m., maybe 10 a.m. And we went straight to a small doctor's surgery here, where we were told a doctor would be on the way. After waiting about half an hour, no doctor came. And at this point, I was bleeding constantly, and I was heavy bleeding. I was bleeding through a postpartum pad, which I'd already bought in preparation. Every 5 minutes, I was bleeding through those, to the point where I was just stationing myself above a toilet just to bleed out freely over the toilet. They decide that we're wasting time here, let's go. So we are driven to the ferry station, because first we have to take a 25-minute ferry. I remember just laying outside on the floor. The pain had really started then. I was getting these kind of contractions, lower back pain. I had no idea what was going on. Placenta abruption hadn't even come into the conversation yet. When the ferry docks on the other side, we are told that an ambulance will meet us. We waited 15 minutes, 20 minutes. No ambulance came. The captain of the ferry came down and spoke to me, and I think he actually thought that I was giving birth. And he said, "I'm a dad. I have 2 kids. Don't panic, Has your waters broke?" And I looked at him. I said, "No, I'm bleeding." And I'll never forget his face when he looked at me with sheer panic and sadness. And I don't know where, but somehow out of the middle of nowhere, this guy comes speeding down the port, and it's a taxi driver, and he says, "Get in." And I don't know who called him, where he came from. He said, "The ambulance isn't coming." They put some towels down for me because we've run out of pads, and we leave. And he drives like a bat out of hell towards the nearest town, which has just a slightly bigger doctor's surgery, kind of a mini hospital, but really they have nothing for my situation. But in that place is where we heard placenta abruption for the first time. They wheel me in on a bed, and then just chaos ensued from that moment and until, well, now I would pretty much say I've been living in chaos. People were just screaming and shouting all around me. I didn't know what to do. I was laying on a bed, and I could just see that blood was just coming out of me, and I didn't know why. A doctor came. He checked me out. He looked at me in a way kind of angry, and I was thinking, why is he mad at me? But looking back on it now, I think it was in a way that he knew what was going on, and he knew that both of our lives were at risk, and there was nothing he could do about it. He didn't have the resources in that place to save our lives. I saw that fear, that anger in his face, but I didn't quite understand it in that moment. Nurses are rushing around me. They're putting cannulas in my hands, compression socks, and I'm wondering, and I'm actually really angry at this point, and I'm thinking, why is nobody telling me what the fuck is going on? What is going on? There's so much chaos, and I don't know what is going on. And then I heard, him speaking to my partner, possibly, I don't remember, but I first heard the placenta abruption, being talked about. At that point, they rush in an ultrasound machine, and she had a heartbeat at that point, 137 beats per minute. Have you ever watched any movies or TV shows, or maybe you've unfortunately been in that situation in real life, when you hear a mother scream, when they've lost their child, that blood-curdling scream? Well, that came out of me. When I knew that she was still here, I told you there'll be tears. When I knew that she was still here, I don't even know where that came from. It just came out. Once they'd prepped me, they put me into the ambulance. My partner was praying outside. He was praying. There was a statue, I think, of the Virgin Mary outside. We got into the ambulance. It was about 30 minutes, I would say. And at this point, everybody was making decisions along the way. My doctor was calling ahead to different hospitals, telling them about my case, because time was of the essence. At this point, I have no idea that I'm very close to dying. We wanted to go to a private hospital, but at the end, we were taken to a public hospital in Playa del Carmen. The reason being for the amount of blood that I was losing. My doctor made the decision finally that it would be best to take me to the public hospital because they have the blood bank in the hospital. And she knew that I would need blood transfusions. And if I'd gone to a private hospital, they would have had to ask for it. They would have had to travel with it. We would have just lost more time than we had already lost. We arrived to the hospital, and at this point I'm in so much pain and I'm not sure if I'm giving birth. You know, I didn't know what the next steps were, but I was screaming for them to get her out of me. They wheel me in, and then I'm in some sort of, you know, TV show. I feel like they are running down the corridors with me. They are screaming, you know, something código mater, which is a code that they use here when both the lives of the mother and the baby are at risk. And they are running through the corridors of this hospital with me, screaming this. People are running out of the way. They're banging through doors with me. And I arrive into a room, which at that point I'm guessing was to have the C-section. There are people just shouting everywhere. They get a pair of scissors. They cut all my clothes. They put my naked body on a metal table. And I remember looking up, and there was a light, the surgical lights that you have just above. And there was a tiny stain of old blood on it. And I thought, where the hell am I? I had no choice now. I had no, you know, I was here. This was my fate. I had to live it. The last memory I have is unable to put my legs straight because of the pain, and they kept pushing my legs down, and I kept screaming for them to stop. There was people painting my stomach yellow, I guess from the iodine or whatever they put on you. And as I looked up, the surgeon's face was above me, and he said, just try and sleep now. And I was thinking, bro, how am I meant to sleep? But little did I know that he was actually putting me under, putting anesthesia in me. And that's the last thing I remember. I think I must have been gone within seconds after that. I don't know about time after this, before or after, I'm not sure, but I think I was out for about 2 hours. They had put something in me to wake me back up again, and I remember the nurse saying, oh, she's awake. I had an oxygen mask on. I was in a different room. And just moments later, a doctor came and she told me. And you could see by her face that she did not want to give me that news. She said, I am so sorry, but we couldn't save her. The first thing I asked was, can I see her? I couldn't cry. Nothing came out of me. I think I was still so, 1, in shock, 2, drugged up, 3, in shock. It was, you know, it was a lot. You know, one day everything's fine, and the next day you lose everything. I don't know how much time passed. It could have been 2 minutes, could have been 20 minutes, but my partner came in holding her. And I'll never forget the look on his face when he came in. The pain in his eyes. We spent 5-10 minutes together, the 3 of us. I couldn't obviously move in this moment because I just had an emergency C-section. So he placed her on my chest. In that moment, I got to touch her cheeks and kiss her and tell her that I love her. I think in that moment, I was actually saying in Spanish, forgive me, forgive me. I feel like my body had failed her completely. They weren't allowed to spend any more time with me because I had to be taken straight down to intensive care. I'd lost 40% of my blood. I was told that half an hour later, and I wouldn't have made it. After everything that I'd just been through, I was then in intensive care alone, without visitation, without being able to speak to anybody, just staring at a white wall. I was hooked up to machines and drugs being pumped in me. I had 2 bags that I know of blood donation. I just remember I had a blood pressure monitor attached to my arm. They said that it would be taking a reading every 30 minutes, so it was constantly attached to my arm. They needed to check all my vital signs, and that was the only way that I knew what the time was, or how time was passing. I want to say I didn't know what the time was, but I was like, okay, 30 minutes have gone by, 1 hour has gone by, 3 hours, and I was like that until the next morning when I was told at 10 in the morning I could have my first visitation. Now, because I was in intensive care, you're not allowed to have anything longer than 10 minutes. And I remember, I think I slept maybe an hour, no more. I was just waiting to see my partner. I hadn't seen him since it was just the 3 of us. He came in and we cried. And I begged everyone around me just to give us 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes, please. Do you not understand our situation? How can you give me just 10 minutes? But security came, he had to leave, and I was alone again. After a few days, I was allowed to leave intensive care. And then a whole new level of trauma ensued. I was taken to the maternity ward, where there was beautiful mothers with their brand new babies, breastfeeding, pregnant ladies. There was a lady next to me around, I would say 8 months pregnant, who was getting a Doppler, that listening to the heartbeat. And I remember just laying in the bed with my fingers in my ears. I couldn't hear that. I couldn't. I was hearing crying babies, people coming to visit, their loved ones with congratulation balloons. And I was just there without my baby, processing everything that had just happened in the last few days. Obviously, with the nature of the emergency, my C-section was a pretty tricky recovery. I had some complications after. Because of the amount of blood loss, I had a lot of bruising all the way down my legs, swelling, and that was from what my doctor tells me now, all the blood kind of gushing and rushing. I can't remember the name of this, but I had old blood trapped around my wound. So after they had to put in 2 puncture wounds just around my incision, and I had to be drained, and that was draining for the first 3 or 4 weeks. After, they would have to press really hard down on it and drain all of this out, otherwise it could have got infected. I could have got sepsis. I was on a lot of medication. There is a lot more, obviously, to our story that I would love to talk about, but that is what happened. That is the story of how we lost our baby girl at 8 months pregnant. The grief is inexplicable. I have lost grandparents. I've lost, pets, a dog that I had for 17 years of my life. Nothing even comes close in my life, in my situation, to the grief that I'm feeling right now. I've been in therapy now for the past 4 or 5 years. And obviously I've been seeing her after this all happened. I also went to try and find a grief counselor. I was advised to go see one. I've been through 2 now. Awful, goddamn awful. I just thought, gosh, that was a waste of my money. So I'm still in the pursuit of trying to find a good grief counselor. If you know any, let me know. To be honest, we're both grieving in different ways. It's a lot, but we've become extremely close. I think when you've shared an experience with somebody like this, and they're really the only person that knows just how you're feeling or what you're going through, that bond is just inexplicable. There's nobody else on this planet that knows our situation, our circumstance, how things unfolded for us. It's been a tough 2 months, and we have a whole lifetime to go. This is not something that just disappears within a few months. This is something we live with for the rest of our lives. The isolation that comes with a situation like this, loss is inevitable in life. There is a process for that. Grandparents, parents, you, then your children, and that's just the way it is. When somebody goes before they're meant to, it's a whole level of pain I can't myself try to explain. That you shouldn't be cremating your baby, your child. It's against the laws of nature. It's not how it's meant to be. They're meant to live longer than me. I wanted to add just onto the end of this video some ways which have helped me start to heal on this journey, kind of the support, because I know it can be really difficult for people to know or to understand what to say, what to do in a situation like this. I'm only going to talk about what is helpful for us or for me, or what I've come to realize, because everybody's different. Checking in. Please don't let people grieve alone. Don't think giving them space, unless they've of course asked for it, then absolutely, but don't just let them grieve alone. They probably do not have the brain capacity to be replying to messages, but a message just saying, hey, I don't expect you to reply to this, but I just want you to know that I'm thinking of you and I love you. That is a perfect message. And keep trying every day. Just send a little message, even if it's an emoji with a love heart. I am so grateful for those people that never gave up and kept messaging and being there, holding my grief, letting me talk about it, not ignoring it. That has been the most difficult for me in this moment, is certain people kind of go silent. It's difficult because saying to somebody, you know, tell me what you need, anything, and I'll do it for you. Just reach out. That's great. It's you know, it's really kind. But I got to tell you now, somebody that is in the midst of grief does not have the brain capacity to delegate. We are not, you know, maybe we need the dishes done. Maybe we need some groceries. Maybe, you know, we're not getting out of bed. We're not eating. We're not cooking. We don't have the energy for any of those things. So if you're making a bowl of pasta and you live close, make an extra portion, drop it off, drop it at the doorstep and say, you know, there's something on your doorstep. I don't need to come in. I just wanted to give you a home cooked meal. All these things are so important. If you see that there is a pile of dishes, just quietly go and wash them up. You have no idea the gratitude I feel for the very small amount of people who did that for me in this journey. Things that I will never forget for the rest of my life. I think people can feel so uncomfortable of not knowing what to say that they don't say anything at all, and they're with you, but they don't bring it up. They don't say anything, and they say, oh, well, I didn't want to bring it up because it seemed like you were having a good day. I just want to tell you now, if we're having a good day, it doesn't mean that we are not thinking about it. I will be thinking about this for the rest of my life. But don't think that just because a person isn't talking about it, that we're not thinking about it. You know, you bringing it up isn't going to cause us pain. The worst of the worst has already happened. We have it in our heads all the time. You bringing it up or asking how we are is not going to go, oh my God, I haven't thought about that for 2 days now. You said something. No, it is up here pretty much all the time. And anyway, I think that wraps up my story. If you made it this far and you have listened to my story, then I really, really appreciate it. I really hope that this video has helped somebody else going through loss to feel less alone. I really hate that this is so taboo, that women are made to just grieve in the shadows. Talk. You deserve to talk about it. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to be held. This is not taboo. This is real life shit that so many people unfortunately go through all around the world. You are not alone, and you're going to get through it. It's really fucking shitty right now, and it's probably going to be really fucking shitty for a very, very long time. But we are strong, and we're going to find the way to move forwards, just a little step every day. I hope this video is informative in some way of how to help anybody that is grieving and you don't know what the hell to do. If you've never heard of a placenta abruption, now you do. Please make sure that you know the signs. There was information out there. You can ask your doctors. I shared my symptoms, which was the pain, the upper pain. To this point, we still don't have an answer to why I had the placenta abruption. They just said it happened. We were checked for preeclampsia, so many other things. At this moment, we have no answers, unfortunately. And thirdly, I wanted to make this video just because I don't want this shit to be taboo anymore. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next video, whenever or whatever that will be.